I'm the deputy chairman of the state of Illinois Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton. And a lot of people don't understand the Black Panther Party's relationship with white mother country radicals. A lot of people don't even understand that word that they're refusing a lot. But what we're saying is that there are white people in the mother country that are for the same type of things that we are for stimulating revolution in the mother country. And we said that we'll work with anybody and form coalitions with anybody that has revolution on their mind. We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism. And we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. Everybody in the state of Illinois is going to have to be involved or even around the revolution because we're going to have one. We're going to have to do more than talk. We're going to have to do more than listen. We're going to even have to do more than learn. We're going to have to start practicing, and that's very hard. We're going to have to start learning, and you learn through practice. We got to start making mistakes, and you learn through making mistakes. We got to start getting out there with the people. And a lot of times we think we're better than the people, but that's an insult and that's criminal. Think you're better than the people. We got to get together and learn where it's at. It's going to take a lot of hard work. That breakfast for children is something else. You ought to dig on it. Every sister in this audience. Now, every sister in this audience ought to get themselves together and come on down and help us with that breakfast for children program. You ought to come down and help feed them children in the morning. We have breakfast for children because we teach the people through practice, through observation and participation, that people can be fed free. That people think socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself. We know they have our pictures, we know they're looking for us, we know they want us, but we're still saying that even though we could be in a sense, as far as this system goes, on the mountaintop, we in the Black Panther Party, because of our dedication and understanding what's in the valley, knowing that the people in the valley, knowing that we originally came from the valley, knowing that our flag is the same flag as the people in the valley, knowing that our enemy is on the mountaintop, our friends are in the valley, we say even though it's nice to be on the mountaintop, we're going back to the valley. I be in the office every day. I'll be in the streets propagandizing every day. I'll be working with everybody every day. I'll be teaching that solidarity is the thing. The end of a complete wipeout of imperialism is the thing. So if you're going to be thinking about me, that's what Biden will be teaching. If you're going to be thinking about us, all we say is ain't no thing about going nowhere, getting killed. All we want to know is that you're doing what we'd be doing if we were here. And you got to do that. You can't do it unless you believe that you can do it. In the spirit of liberation, we understand that they want everybody in the party in jail. And we know that if we try to figure out and separate and decide who should go and who shouldn't go, we spend more time doing that than working for the people. So the quick solution being one, nobody goes. Nobody goes. We all stay right here. With the people. Because we love the people. Okay, you put your hands down now. We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Yellow power to yellow people. Black power to black people. X power to those that we left out. We say Panther power to Vanguard Party. When you leave here saying the last word on the, before you go to bed next time, I'm a revolutionary. Make that the last word. In case you don't wake up, then somebody might believe it and you might, end up in what they call a revolutionary happy hunting ground. Say that. I'm a revolutionary. Say it when you're going out. Everybody, okay, we're going to say it while we're going out. And We're going to start a thing called Street Friends. Don't that sound nice? Hey, let's do that. Street Friends. Street Friends. Street Friends. Street Friends. I didn't see it.
Hey fam, welcome to Punks for Progress. I'm Reverend Aaron. This here is a What the Fuck report. This droning noise you're hearing is Throbbing Gristle, Mission of Dead Souls, the last live performance of Throbbing Gristle. This is from side 2, and this track is actually called Spirits Flying. Like I said, it's a What the Fuck report. I got a big, giant, jam-packed show ready for y'all. We're going to basically be doing, among other things, some follow-ups on stories we covered prior on the What the Fuck report. We're going to be taking a look at what's been going on this week with Line 3. There's been some updates in relation to that literal straight-up Nazi party in Germany. And so we're going to cover that. As always, I've got records picked out. I've got some art picked out. And various other things to keep ourselves informed and entertained. But before we get into the What the Fuck report today, I want to address this motherfucker over here. Yeah, this sellout, basically full-on fash pile of fucking dog shit right here. This here's Glenn Greenwald. A lot of people may know Glenn Greenwald as being a historically invaluable voice for progressive issues. He was also did some fantastic and excellent reporting in relation to the suppression and political targeting and political imprisonment of Lula da Silva in Brazil. And he's done some excellent reporting about exposés on things going on within the Bolsonaro regime. So Glenn Greenwald has, without question, done some great fucking work in his time. But of late, better part of the last year, for the most, I guess, primarily, he's lost every last bit of his good sense, and he's a full-on fucking sold-out piece of shit, and I'll call him a fucking fascist. Because, especially in this most recent video here, he's gone all in. These are on the surface, these aren't things that say, these aren't talking points that go, hey, I really like fascism, and let's do all kinds of fascism stuff. But what they do, what they are the precise and exact talking points that you hear fascists asserting. So, yeah, and let's just point out that he's on the Daily Caller, which is just a full-on fucking far-right fascist propaganda outlet. So just where he's at, for starters, is dog shit. But the takeaway that everyone's going around and that's causing so much controversy, and people are talking about it on Twitter, is that he said Tucker Carlson's a socialist. He says a whole bunch of other things are socialists here that aren't socialists. And, yeah, so with no further whatever, let's just listen to what this fucking sellout piece of fucking dog shit has to say. To the Daily Caller.
And I, would describe a lot of people on the right as being socialists. I would consider Steve Bannon to be a socialist. I would consider...
A lot of people on the right are socialists. He considers Steve Bannon a socialist. No one on the right is a socialist. You can't be on the right and be a socialist. Let's just be really clear. Socialism is about being anti-capitalism, ending capitalism, and doing it by way of the workers' seizing of the means of production. That's socialism, okay? Now, how we go about seizing the means of production and ending capitalism, there's some disagreements about that on the left among various stripes of socialists, anarchist or communist or ANCOM or, various, variations on those distinctions. But they're all anti-capitalist. They all want the workers to seize the means of production and have that be the avenue by which we end capitalism. So No right-winger is calling for any of that. Most especially the fucking international poster boy and Pied Piper for fucking 21st century fascism, Steve Bannon.
And the 2016 iteration of Donald Trump, the candidate to be a socialist, based on what he was saying, I consider
2020, Donald Trump was a socialist. There isn't a part of his ass that this didn't come from. Every part of this came out of this man's ass. And it was put there by fucking fascism.
Tucker Carlson to be a socialist. You know, now if you have Governor Cuomo who wants to give, you know, tens of millions of dollars to Amazon to bring an office to New York, you have AOC, an actual self-identified socialist, standing up and saying, this is outrageous. And then you have Tucker Carlson going on his Fox News program and saying, I agree with her completely, because I think people are realizing that neoliberalism doesn't work. And I think the real right-left...
So, okay, let's be real clear here. I don't care if AOC or Bernie Sanders calls himself a socialist. They're not socialists, okay? They're liberals who want to put restrictions on capitalism and regulations on capitalism. They're not out here trying to end capitalism. They're not out here advocating for the workers seizing the means of production. They're not socialists. Just because they go, hey, yeah, I'm socialist. They're just buying into like traditional right-wing framing of what socialism is, because right-wingers frame liberalism as socialism and then deeply fear-monger socialism so that you can't even get liberal policies passed. Then it's people like AOC and Bernie will come along and go, yeah, all the things that the right wing has irrationally been fear-mongering as being socialist, I believe in that stuff, like Medicare for all or a Green New Deal or whatever. So I guess I'm socialist. Well, they're not. But even if that were the case and they were socialist, how does that make a vehement, outspoken, far-right fucking demagoguing fascist like Trump somehow socialist? It doesn't. And the reason that this is such a useful talking point is because over the last few years, with the help of people like Dinesh D'Souza, the right has carved out this talking point that, like, you know, socialism, and, you know, Rand Paul wrote a whole book about this, that, like, socialism is about the, redistribution of wealth via the mechanisms of government, and essentially the government seizing the means of production and owning everything and deciding how everything's distributed and who gets what, okay? And saying that that's socialism. And it isn't. But if you believe that, and then you look at things that like Trump is espousing or Steve Bannon is espousing, it brushes up against this notion of, yeah, letting basically capitalism run free, denying the workers any power in terms of the means of production, right? Letting the bosses and the capitalist ruling class bourgeois elites and the elites in government run everything. This is what Steve Bannon wants. This is what Trump wants. None of that is socialist. And I venture to say that Glenn Greenwald here, he knows that. Glenn Greenwald knows what the proper, true definition, as espoused by Marxists and anarchists and communists and Marxist-Leninists and Maoists, anyone that's a self-described socialist that's properly advocating for the end of capitalism. Glenn Greenwald knows that definition is what socialism is. And he knows very good and well. He's learned and knowledgeable enough to understand that the things that he's labeling as socialist most assuredly do not meet the standard definition thereof. And he has to know clearly that the talking points he's pushing facilitate fascist misinformation on the notions of what socialism is. And he's doing it anyway, and he's doing it on the Daily Caller, fam. If you ask me, the reason I went ahead and covered this is because one of our amazing followers asked me on a separate video, hey, this is totally off topic, but what are your feelings about Glenn Greenwald calling Tucker Carlson a socialist? Well, here we are, and I'm telling you what it is. He's a full-on fucking sold-out fascist now, fam. Don't ever trust a fucking thing that this piece of shit right here says. ever. Ever. He's not on our team anymore. And he's not just getting it wrong. He's not just really, 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 really wrong. He is really, 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 really wrong. But it's not just that he's wrong. It's that he's wrong on purpose. He is now an all-in, up to his fucking eyebrows in the cesspool of pushing and perpetuating full-on far-right fascist talking points. I'm going to let him finish up his little thing here, and then we'll get to an actual fucking what the fuck report.
Difference to the extent that those terms even have any currency or coherence. I think you see in France too, like Marine Le Pen.
Hold on a second. I want to address that. What he's talking about, the terms that don't have currency anymore.
Currency or coherence.
Hold on. Back up a little bit more.
I think you see in France too, like Marine Le
What
Pen.
happened? Hey.
Carlson going on his Fox News program and saying, I agree with her completely, because I think people are realizing that neoliberalism doesn't work.
Okay, yeah. So look, if Tucker Carlson and AOC happen to agree with each other on one specific thing, that doesn't then make Tucker Carlson somehow a socialist. It doesn't even make the thing that AOC's position a socialist. But even if AOC was a full-on, deep-throated, let's end capitalism socialist, and Tucker Carlson happened to agree with her on a thing, that doesn't then, by association, make you a socialist. That's a weird right-wing fascist talking point, too. That if you say anything that sounds like the people who disagree with us say, you're a commie. You're the Antifas. It's this full-on 100% black and white, no gray area on anything, no gradation, no nuance to anything. You're either all in or you're not. So if Tucker Carlson happens to say something that's somehow in agreement with one thing AOC said, he's a socialist now? No. It doesn't mean he's out here advocating for the end of capitalism by way of workers seizing the means of production. But that's Nazi shit. That's purity test Nazi shit. Oh, wait a minute. You said something that sounds something like what a liberal might say? Race traitor. And all your Nazi, tattooed up boneheads people shoot you in the face now because they don't trust you. That's such deep Nazi-ass paranoid shit. Straight up.
I think the real right-left difference, to the extent that those terms even have any currency or coherence, I think you see in France.
So that's what I wanted to actually get to. This notion of like these terms not having any currency or coherence. All of these different political designations still have very specific definitions. Okay? Socialism has always and will always mean a very specific thing. Neoliberalism has a very specific definition and always will. Fascism has a it's a fluctuating thing because the behaviors of fascism change cyclically, sort of. But the basic notions of what fascism are never going to change. None of these things become arbitrary and fluid. Fascists try to give the impression that they do, though, so that they can trick and misinform like less informed liberals and more centrist people who don't have a real firm grasp on what those specific historic definitions are. Fascists can come in and make them all seem confused and fluid, and that there's like crossover with all these things. And then they can, in doing so, can instill within that person some very, very dangerous, legitimate far-right fascist fucking thinking. And then those people will internalize that, not realizing that it's actually very specifically fascist, a very specifically fascist notion that they're internalizing. So all these political designations have very specific definitions that do not shift and change over time. The behaviors of people who adhere to these definitions may fluctuate and change in reaction to contemporary culture, but the definitions of them do not change. And again, I do feel that Glenn Greenwald is knowledgeable and intelligent enough to know that what I'm saying is historically and verifiably factual. But he wants to contribute to the lie that there's fluidity and an arbitrary nature to very specific political designations when there isn't.
Like Marine Le Pen, the fascist far-right candidate, when she ran both times, she ran to the left of Macron for sure, but even the French socialists in terms of wanting to give workers better benefits and better pensions. So I think the vision is, you have this kind of right-wing...
Want to give them better pensions and da-da-da-da-da. See, that's liberalism. That's a form of redistribution of wealth. Taxing the wealthy to provide for some of the needs of the poor. That gets demonized as being socialism when it's not. That is redistribution of wealth. That is putting restrictions on capitalism or regulations on capitalism and a form of redistribution of wealth. That is all historically, very, very, very specifically liberalism or SOCDEM, social democracy, okay? But it's not socialism, okay? So what Le Pen was doing was traditional neoliberal shit. But fascists like to confuse that. They point to something that is very specifically neoliberal and fearmonger and demonize it as somehow being this boogeyman of socialism. Okay? And then Glenn Greenwald comes along and in the soup of that confusion and goes, see, these definitions, man, they don't even have meaning anymore, man. This is it's like some postmodernist fucking gobbledygook garbage. It's fascism. It's fascism, fam. For real. I'm not being hyperbolic, and I don't intend to be hyperbolic, and I know it may sound that way. And again, he's not out here going, hey man, let's, start subjugating and enslaving minorities and worship a demagoguing figurehead, strongman. No, he's not coming right out and saying that. But all these talking points and these narratives are the exact point for point talking points and narratives that fascists have historically constructed and strung together for the purpose of creating conditions that will make all those things that I just described, that demagoguing, strongman figure and stuff, possible. He's a fascist.
Which really is socialism, that says we should close our borders, not allow unconstrained immigration, and then...
Yeah. Anyway, I've said enough. You wanted to know, fam? And there it is. My thoughts on fucking Glenn Greenwald.
And I'd like to dedicate this one to Punks for Progress. Punks for Progress. This is for my brothers and Punks for Progress. Punks for Progress never anarchy. Fight for your liberty. We don't want your government. We don't need your services. I'm an anarchist. I'm an anarchist.
Punks for Progress on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks, brother.
That sounds right up my alley.
Power,
That was a good day when you hear a punk say the word righteous.
out, fam. What's queuing up now? This is the Resistance Company. It's brand new. Track is called It's Up to Us, live in Fort Lauderdale. The Resistance Company, fam. Okay, what this is here, hold on. This is from Unicorn Riot. We're going to cover some other Unicorn Riot stuff in a later segment, but I wanted to make sure we stop and take a look at this. The video is called Rally to End the War on Immigrants at ICE Building in Minnesota. I'll read the description here. Dozens of people gathered outside an ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, detention center at the Whipple Building in Fort Snelling, Minnesota on February 20 to demand an end to the war on immigrants. Hear, hear. After an opening ceremonial dance by Kalpuli Yao Chinotli, Unicorn Riot streamed live for the rally at the brief march up to the federal building housing ICE. Two siblings, Rudy and Betsy, spoke to the crowd about their families' ordeals with ICE, including having their parents jailed and other members being deported. The primary group behind the rally was MIRAC, Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee, MIRAC. In the description on the Facebook event for this rally, they stated that since the Biden administration has taken power, they've, quote, taken some welcome actions to start to undo Trump's Trump's anti-immigrant policies. But ICE abuses of immigrants continue, and there's a lot more work to do. Just hitting rewind to 2016 is not enough. They list 7 demands. Legalization for all, word. Close the camps, word. No kids in cages, word. No border militarization, word. No wall on native land, word. End abuses in ICE jails, including forced sterilization. Holy shit, it's astounding that even has to be a demand. Absolutely. End abuses in ICE jails, including forced sterilizations. Immediate access to COVID-19 vaccine for all people in ICE detention who want it. Fucking A. Fucking A. All right, fam. Let's make sure we get some closed captioning on. Unicorn Riot rally to end the war on immigrants at ICE building in Minnesota.
We just want you guys to acknowledge that you're on stolen, occupied, indigenous Dakota land today. We've been dealing with immigration for a lot of centuries here.
That's because Biden is in, and he said he's gonna do all this shit in 100 days. He hasn't done shit. He hasn't done a damn thing for black lives, for immigrant lives, for native lives, and I don't care if people are like, well, give him a chance. Hell, we gave him a chance when he was the vice president for 8 years. And didn't do shit either.
I recognize this building a lot. Me and my little sister have been in this building many times. Our father was arrested and detained, and he was put in jail. That meant that we had no income from my father's side, so we had to completely rely on our mother. And me and Betsy were still in school, so we lost our house. And my mom isn't legal here either, so we didn't have any rights. You know, we didn't have any rights to a lawyer. We didn't even have money to be in a house.
It's just very sad how people take our parents and kids away. It's very disgusting how it disgusts me how they take people away, innocent people away, and they really don't care. And we're here to stop what they're doing.
The system that oppresses immigrants and takes children away from their parents is the same system that took Indian children away from their parents and tried to turn them white. It's the same system that took enslaved black children away from their parents and told them, no, you're going to have your slave owner's last name and we're going to try to erase your history. This is one system. The immigration system has always been about getting labor and enforcing a racial hierarchy. We have to dismantle the system. And that means that no working group or study group is going to fix this. No executive order. We need to abolish it and make a system that puts families together and prioritizes human dignity.
Word. Big ups and thanks to Unicorn Riot. But check it out, fam.
For just $67,
not that.
You can
That's not what I'm excited about because that's just an ad. But check this shit out. Brand new Moscow Death Brigade. Track's called Crocodile Style. Official music video.
Been kid for a while, real bad don't dice the dial. Recommend like a fire of Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Been kid for a while, real bad don't dice the dial. Recommend like a fire of Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. That's why this man get dragged so died down back in the rest of us back and in the back like in the can. Don't know the light of a suspect. Tell a man straight and a gentleman. I spit the venom and bile. My silence today can stand. Ripped out with the big sand. It was planned as in a problem. Came from the darkness basement. Someone in places. Who's up, tie up your lasers. To the west sing for the big ass races. Ripping out the faces. Laces for years like a gangster before the attack. Time to fulfill their fears. We're back. Back in black spot fast like a red black fangs and clothes. Start up back. Been here for a while. We're back, don't dice the dial. Break a neck like a fire of Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Been here for a while. We're back, don't dice the dial. Break a neck like a fire of Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. That's right, it's me again. Fire intelligent, carrying out the plan. I'm like the Freeman, silent till I jump on the mic like Doom Guy. Watch me that. I grab a little this and I grab a little that. I throw it in a blender and I turn it on to the max. I reap what I saw, carefully picking my crop. Now see the recipe, suck a bit hip hop. Never stop seeking the variety. Mixing up the medicine, setting up the TNT. Make you bowl like a kid, I'm the Lion King. I'm a killer bee, can you feel the venomous sting? Spring to action, crusty, nasty. Crocodile with the bad passport with the Slavic accent. Out the casket, spitting battery acid. Musically bomb rush you with the passion. Been here for a while. Real back, don't dice the dial. Break a neck like a fire of Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Been here for a while. Real back, don't dice the dial. Break a neck like a fire of Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Check us style like a crocodile with step. Ripping them to pieces, bite, click, clack. Taking what is ours, step by step we ain't going back. Alligator click, here we go in full effect. Shake a style like a crocodile with step. Ripping them to pieces, bite, click, clack. Taking what is ours, step by step we ain't going back. Alligator click, here we go in full effect. Been here for a while, real bad don't rise the dial. Make a neck like a fly with Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Been here for a while, real bad don't rise the dial. Make a neck like a fly with Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Been here for a while, real bad don't rise the dial. Make a neck like a fly with Kyle. We pop up crocodile style. Been here for a while, real bad don't rise the dial. Make a neck like a fly with Kyle. We pop up crocodile style.
There you go, fam. Moscow Death Brigade. Crocodile style.
Take up my gas, don't come with the combat. Repelling the attack if you got my back. Crocodile rhymes the timeless, it's a fact. Aim it to win it, my bow, gotta go speak back.
Queuing up for us to look at while I play some vinyl is a Greg Simpkins art video.
For just $67.
Of course, there's an ad first. But hey, it gets him the ad revenue, and his art is fucking awesome, so I'm cool with it. But we'll keep the volume down. I got a track queued up over here. This is Squeeze, fam, off of Argy Bargy. The song's called If I Didn't Love You. Yeah, Squeeze, fam.
If I didn't love you, I'd hate you. Watching you play in the bar. A soap-sucked stickleback navy. A scrubbing brush landing craft. Your skin gets softer and warmer. I'll pat you down with a towel. Tonight it's love by the fire. My mind goes out on the prowl. If I didn't love you, I'd hate you. I'm playing your stereogram. Singles remind me of kisses. Albums remind me of plans. Tonight it's love by the fire. The wind plays over the coals. Passion looks on my fancy, but you turn the look into stone. If I didn't love you, would you sit and glow by the fire? If I didn't love you, would you make me feel so? Man, love me. Oh, if I didn't love you. If I
International Jet Set. The Targets. This song is called Don't Stop Now.
On the dance floor, we're playing our set. Body aching dull but having no regrets. The music pulls us onward as the tide creeping by. Listen to the music before we say goodbye. We said, hey, hey, don't stop right now. We said, hey, we'll play anyhow. We're playing anyhow. Dancers and musicians, a necessary pour, a lasting bond, leaving nothing to restore. One feeds the other, a circle complete. Music needs the dancers and dancers need the beat. We said, hey, hey, don't stop right now. We said, hey, 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 we'll play anyhow. We're playing anyhow.
Simpkins art, fam.
Time drawing near, waste not beat or breath. So don't hold back, just step right in. Now is the time, the world is our own. Ours to the moment till we're beckoned home. We said, hey, hey, don't stop right now. We said, hey, 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 we're playing anyhow. 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 Stop, 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 stop.
There we go, fam. That was a Targets. And as promised, what I have queued up over here is again from Unicorn Riot, but we're going to play 3 short clips that they put up this week, all in relation to line 3. Let's read the description here. Caravan disrupts line 3 work sites. Extended video, February 19, 2021. On Friday, February 19, a family-friendly caravan disrupted traffic at several Line 3 construction routes, and authorities led a falsified bomb scare that prompted a backlash from locals. Around noon, before the caravan started, a dozen people protested near the pipeline construction just feet away from Camp McGeezy. The caravan then drove to a choke point of roads used for construction and a strip of land with the Endbridge corridor of pipelines. The pipeline resistors, which featured several young children, stayed until authorities issued dispersal orders and then left.
This is Alex with Unicorn Riot. We're here in a Anishinaabe territory in northern Minnesota on the Fond du Lac Reservation. There are water protectors and pipeline resistors here right outside a work site. This pipeline is a tar sands pipeline, and Enbridge is calling it a replacement pipeline, but it's really just a completely new pipeline. It's going through this new corridor, and it's intended to pump over 900,000 crude oil barrels a day, which is larger than the capacity that Keystone XL was going to have. All this massive heavy machinery is here to basically deforest part of this land and dig it up and put this tar sands pipeline in, even though thousands of people are against it. This trench that's here is so the pipeline can go underneath the road. It's above ground over there. There are, I believe, over 800 wetlands that are going to be affected and over 200 bodies of water that the pipe is going to be going through or on top of. Folks are here right now because it's a choke point so that any construction workers and trucks can't get to the sites to work.
1,
We are the people.
2,
We are united.
3.
We will not let you build this pipeline.
Tar sands mining is one of the most energy intensive projects, where only 10% of what they mine is bitumen, and bitumen can be refined into crude oil. So 90% is clay, water, sand, where all of the tar sands comes from, Alberta, Canada. The boreal forest has basically been demolished and deforested, and tar sands has been mined from there. And the indigenous people who live right there next to all of that mining have been getting really rare cancers. Their water and food and animals are getting poisoned.
Due to the unlawful conduct and threat to public peace, I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly under Minnesota Statute 609-705.
Folks are slowly moving away. So this area where this road is where the pipe is actually going to go through. There's about 20 people here standing at this work site. There's already 6 pipelines in the ground.
Doom to the pipeline! Doom to the pipeline!
A helicopter is flying over.
So it says Enbridge owns this helicopter in N125 EP, and that day flew the route of Line 3 from Bemidji to Duluth, according to Flight Aware.
There's an extreme alert that was sent to phones. It says imminent extreme alert due to potential explosive hazard that was found in area of Ditch Banks Road and pipeline crossing. Law enforcement is evacuating residents in the area.
Absolute bullshit. They made that up. There's no way they found a bomb. Law enforcement made that up to give the impression that these people are terrorists, and to fearmonger and to terrorize the citizens of that community into believing that they were under threat of some type of bombing when they weren't. I don't know that they never found a bomb, but I'm going to venture to say that they didn't. But even if they did, it most assuredly had nothing to do with this. But they would clearly look at the history of COINTELPRO. Look at the murder of Fred Hampton. Look at the long history of the CIA and the FBI's targeting of leftists demonstrating like this. There is countless examples of precedents for me to reach the conclusion that there was no bomb. Fucking pigs pretended there was so that they could terrify the community near this pipeline into thinking that these good people, these indigenous people who want to protect that same community from cancer-causing fucking blowback of this fucking the manufacturing of this goddamn pipeline, and to protect the waters and the clean waters, the source of life for that community. Instead, all of a sudden, an alert goes out that says that there's a bomb. How fucking convenient for the pigs. And I use that word terrorize the community very purposefully, because it is. It is to make a community terrified about something. And they're doing it for political reasons. And really, it's for profit reasons. It's so that a handful of people that are invested in the company, Umbridge or whatever the fuck this disgusting company is called, can continue to make profit off the last scraps and fucking dirty fucking remnant vestiges of fucking fossil fuel fucking that's left in the ground. When there are numerous alternatives if we just put a little bit of fucking focus and attention into fucking perpetuating or proliferating, we wouldn't have to do all this shit. But instead of going to clean and renewable sources for energy, they want to do the most destructive, toxic, and deadly thing possible to get the last little bit of shit that when we use it will also be fucking deadly and toxic. All of it, though, profitable for a very small fucking handful of people. It's so disgusting. I'll let it play out the last couple seconds here because it's going to queue up the second one. Unicorn Riot is so crucially important, fam.
To obstruct, resist, or interfere with peace officers, you will be violating Minnesota Statute 60950, obstructing legal process.
I mean, I'll just say really quick, and then I promise I'll let it play on to the next one. They're crucially important because this gives us something, an insight, one, into what's actually going on in the struggle, right? But, what do we have as news sources? Like a lot of us, people like me, and plenty of other streamers or YouTubers or whatever it is that cover the news cycle or portions thereof or whatever it is. What would we have otherwise, right? Well, one, we'd have all these progressives, but even they don't bring coverage like Unicorn Riot does. This shows us what's really happening with people who do more than share hashtags. People who take this struggle for life and freedom and emancipation very, very personal and very seriously. God, it is just so important that Unicorn Riot exists, and it's such an honor to be able to regularly boost their content. Creative Commons, fam. Non-commercial, share alike. Sharing the most important shit, and for free.
We are here on...
Okay, let me read the description on this next one. Line 3 resistance, water protectors locked down to flipped car. The last What the Fuck report, one of them had locked themselves, two people had locked themselves to one of the big trucks. I don't know, some type of tractor or fucking crane machine. Anyway, on February 24, 2020, 2 water protectors locked down to a flipped car in the middle of a main Line 3 worksite access road. At the same time, about 5 miles down the road, a bipod was set up with 1 water protector hanging from the middle of the 2 poles. The 2 blockades effectively blocked 12.5 miles of access road. Nice. Preventing workers from leaving and arriving from to their shifts for over 5 hours. Big ups on that. Before locking down to the flipped over car, 2 indigenous water protectors, Big Wind from Northern Arapaho and Danny from Shoshone-Bannock tribe, spoke to Unicorn Riot about the reasonings behind their action. Big Wind spoke about the construction of Line 3 that's, quote, desecrating pristine wetlands and violating treaty obligations, and burned his per capita payment from the U.S. government, saying this is, quote, an end of an era. Death to the black snake. Hear, hear.
We are here on Bethau, Basau, the Great Lakes, the land of the Great Lakes. I'm Big Wind, I'm Northern Arapaho. I'm here with my comrade Danny, he's Shoshone, and we're here to stop Line 3. And as you can see, they're building Line 3, which is currently desecrating pristine wetlands, violating treaty obligations, but if complete, will double the capacity of the tar sands that's coming from Alberta. And with that, that would hinder our obligations of meeting the Paris Climate Accord. When you look at the world, while only making up less than 4% of the human population, Indigenous people are protecting 80% of the world's biodiversity. And I don't think that's a coincidence. But with that being said, I have to be real. Just because of that, that doesn't devoid ourselves from this fossil fuel addiction economy. And because of that, it allows multinational corporations like Enbridge to go and have backdoor deals with government-sanctioned business councils so that we get crumbs compared to what they are actually making. And for generations, that's bought in our silence. Here I have a per cap payment from the government that, this is because I get a check. This is that we get a little piece of the pie, right? And they were stealing it from us before we were even getting any part of it. And as I burn this per cap payment, it signifies the end of an era, death to the black snake, and the ushering of a new era where we all have access to clean drinking water, where we can rapidly transform our energy system to a just transition, and where we understand that the only way we're going to survive this climate crisis is by living in tandem with the nature around us.
God, I love Unicorn Rides so much.
How does it feel right now hanging from there and seeing the workers ready to try to extract you?
Let's read the description here, fam. This one's called Bipod Blockade Halts Construction of Line 3 Pipeline, which they mentioned in the previous description. Before the sun came up on February 24th, 3 water protectors locked down to blockades on Loon Road, a main Line 3 pipeline construction access road, which had more than 12 active work sites connected to it. A water protector named Rose sat atop a 40-foot bipod on the west end of the road, and about 5 miles to the east, water protector Big Wind and Danny locked down to a flipped-over car. Both blockades prevented workers from entering and exiting the work sites for over 5 hours. So it looks like these two things were going on simultaneously, and I'm pretty sure we'll see this might be a separate version, but I think we covered the person that's up in the bipod on the last News from the Revolutionary Struggle. But we'll see. I'm anxious to see if this is the same or if they had another one, or even just to get another angle of it, Anyway, here we go.
How does it feel right now hanging from there and seeing the workers ready to try to extract you?
I honestly just miss my friends and wish it was my friends trying to talk to me and not cops. I don't trust them or feel safe with them, and I don't want them to touch me. But I will stand strong and stay here as long as I can. Something I've been thinking about is being from here, and, a lot of my family lives in northern Minnesota, and I grew up going fishing in the lakes and going camping, and it just feels like just really serious and deep cognitive dissonance that folks have to both, benefit from the land and find it beautiful and find peace there, and also be willing to put this pipeline through that's only for corporate greed and isn't going to benefit anyone long term. Instead, it's going to poison our water and continue to push us into climate disaster. So that's why I've decided to take a risk and also, and with all of my other comrades who are going to stop Line 3.
Right.
I'm also up here because I think that we need to be brave, and it was scary and hard, and I cried a lot when a scary man tried to drive his car through here, but I think that, you know, that's part of this too. I was like, I will cry openly. It's scary and also just intense. It's intense to, like, sit with the streets. The grief that I have for the land. Over.
Not all heroes wear capes, fam. Just saying.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Unicorn Riot.
Did you know that the average adult has 5 to 20 pounds of...
Okay, fam. What I got queued up over here is some good music. We got some good art coming up. This is,
Wish you were dead. There's the TV in my front room, and it's screwing up my head. There's the scanner in the toilet. I watch you take a bath, and there's a picture of Hiroshima to make sure you never laugh.
Big Brother's the track.
Embarrassed wasn't you. Somebody else said you know it's not true. Idiot, believe.
And the artist I have queued up is the channel's Jarrell Threat, Jarel Threat. Piece is called Time-Lapse Charcoal Drawing, Life in Death.
Somebody told me that I was watching you. Somebody else said you know it's not true. Idiot, believe. Niggas, Big Brother. Well, they asked me how to prove it, and there was nothing I could say. I said, watch out for Big Brother, and then they put me away. They said I was paranoid because I wrote this song. They didn't need to read it because they knew it all along. No. Somebody told me that I was watching you. Somebody else said you know it's not true. Idiot, believe.
One more from DK.
We are gathered here tonight to pay tribute to our Lord and money unto me. Oh Lord in heaven, let us pray. You TV viewers, give me your pain and see.
you got the full majority. Cause of the people in the real world. Titles I spoke on the tribe. Understand, you're on my sake. I love you, some about the news. Anybody the press of the swimming pool. People say so loud and proud. Just understand, you're on my tracks. Like the kind of some of the noise. Not your emotions, steal your money. Too dark, anyone with a back drive. I'll see no son of a sail with straps. Giant holes in the river guys. Very much supposed to be alive. That's the way I'm gonna find my rival. Understand, you're on my sake. Go out your ass. Go out your ass. What's wrong with a mind of my own? You don't want to push me with attitude. When you want to benefit like fat sauce problem. Now you want to force some pray in school. God instead if you're such a fool. Like a war with the weather ran. You're the police over the school that slam. This such a name it don't bother an egg. Look at the phone and turn it in a bag. Say go ahead out your ass. No shall be ramming up your gun. God said you're alive. God said you're alive.
This is Swingin' Utters. This song is called You Haven't Seen Yourself in Years.
To yourself, as long as the ones that are missing you're not ashamed. Those lonely moments got you drinking to your health. As long as they become the night you're still maintained. And now the situation calls for death below your greatest fears. And though it seems as time has not progressed, your eyes are filled with tears. You haven't seen yourself in years. 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 These precious days are quickly running out. And let me tell you all about what he just did. He sat and worried that his days were running out. And now he fled. And now the situation calls for death below its greatest fears. And though it seems as time has not progressed, his eyes are filled with tears. He hasn't seen himself in years. 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 And his face hasn't changed. And he knows just what's left to do. He's gotta change his tired ways. Nobody knew, not even you.
Hanging around.
just hanging around. They're just hanging around. Christ is told his mother, Christ he told her not to bother, cause he's alright in the city, cause he's high above the ground. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging around. One of them comes closer, he's got a monkey on his shoulder, and the monkey's getting grinner, but his eyes are on the ground. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging around. I'm moving in the colon with the leather all around me, and the sweat is getting steamy, but their eyes are on the ground. They're just hanging around. They're just hanging around. Christ has told his mother, Christ has told her not to bother, cause he's alright in the city, cause he's high above the ground. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging around. He's just hanging Christ has told his mother, Christ has told her not to bother, cause he's alright in the city, cause he's high above the ground. He's just hanging around. 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 He's just hanging
It's canceled if COVID's still going.
I can't live on
Okay, fam. So what's queuing up now is I've got a few videos queued up actually. So first one, as you can see, is from TRT World. Go ahead and read the description here. So we're gonna, I'll just go ahead and read the description, and then I have some. I've got other stuff to provide some historical context, some backstory, so we can understand a little better this headline, this new development that unfolded basically today. But like I said, this is from TRT World Now. Reads, Germany places far-right AfD party under surveillance. Germany's domestic intelligence agency has placed the far-right Alternative for Germany, Alternative for Germany is, or Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, under observation as a potential threat to democracy. The AfD is now being treated as a suspected extremist group, a designation that allows government, criminologists, and that allows government. That's interesting. An extremist group, a designation that allows government. Okay, so obviously they left a word out there or something. But anyway, it goes on. Criminologist and civil rights attorney Brian Levin weighs in. Poet and didn't know it.
Brian Levin, who is a criminologist and a civil rights attorney. He's also the director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University. Brian, thank you so much indeed for your time. There's a very fine line between political rhetoric and hate speech, but where does this fall?
Great question. And here's the thing. AFD has been a far-right party for some time, and as you've so accurately indicated, they've been virulently xenophobic, anti-Muslim, and anti-press. And there is an office that was created post-war in Germany to examine threats, even those that come within the political realm, that are directed towards the German democracy. So this Office of Protection of the Constitution has launched this. And I think what you have in Germany are more strict rules regarding what one can say as far as bigoted speech and anti-democratic type of rhetoric. It's specifically written into German law, which is a bit separate from countries like the United States. But they've had similar issues with attacks against immigrants, and even a precursor to what we saw here in the United States with a big protest against the Reichstag in August of last year.
I mean, I think back to what happened in Greece last year and the court ruling that eventually outlawed the Golden Dawn Party, but slightly different probably, because the court said that Golden Dawn, while being a political party, that was just some kind of cover for what was essentially a criminal organization. Can you
And
think...
I'll just say that, yeah, these circumstances are different, but Golden Dawn is the Grecian equivalent of the AfD in Germany. Okay? Is the Republican Party. Okay? Like, these are far-right fascists. They espouse all the same talking points. You'll see when we get back into, like, when it gets a little more into their back history in this video and some other videos that I have queued up, that they're following the same patterns of rhetoric and narratives that you see coming out of the far-right QAnon people, as coming out of, you know, your far-right fascist parties, even in, like, your followers of Alexei Navalny. Okay? Like, and make no mistake that there's figures like Steve Bannon being one of the most prominent among them, who Glenn Greenwald wants to fucking call a socialist now. Give me a goddamn break. Glenn Greenwald is now all in a fucking fascist. I digress. But figures like Steve Bannon and many figures that we probably are not being made aware of, back fucking room motherfuckers, that are working in tandem with all these different parties, that have relationships, that are the cohesive tissue that brings Golden Dawn together with members of AFD, together with, like, people from, dare I say, Proud Boys, or, you know, far-right, full-on, you know, more like, actually, maybe less Proud Boys, but more like the base or Atomwaffen people here in America, for example. But definitely QAnon people, because a lot of these people in Europe are pushing QAnon conspiracy theories. It's all the same thing. Yes, Greece realized that Golden Dawn was a thuggish fucking terrorist group and went after him for that. Whereas in Germany, they've decided to just start monitoring the activities of this person, of this group. And remember, that's because the real original Nazis came from here. These people, AfD, are the modern manifestation of the original OG Nazi party. No question. They don't come right out and call themselves that. And they're not out here constantly calling the Jews the, you know, the cultural Marxists or the cultural Bolsheviks. They have different words to express those same exact sentiments now. But it's all the same tradition.
Many cases, we're a major political party, the second biggest party in Germany's parliament, this one, a major political party being categorized as a suspected extremist group?
No, and this is an excellent point you make. This is certainly the first time since World War II that's happened in Germany. Although, as you said, we've seen this with respect to Greece, as well as a much lesser entity, but still a threat. Generation Identity in France was recently banned, and we've had similar populist and nationalist groups here in the United States. But a group that's got 13% of the vote back in 2017, it's diminished somewhat, but it's still a major political force. Being investigated as an extremist group is something very rare indeed, and the first time since the end of World War II that we've seen such a thing in Germany.
We had a guest, Brian, earlier tell us that actually this designation probably won't change anything in terms of the federal and state elections that are going to happen in Germany this year. But this sort of thing, what does it do to supporters of such a party? Does it make them even more hardline, or does it make them step away a little bit?
I think it makes them more hardline, at least for now. We'll see. Maybe there'll be a splintering. Look, one of the things that we know is failure does not breed a lot of fans. So their support has diminished to around 10%. But you make an excellent point. Just recently, they had a faction that was very extreme, and it supposedly disbanded. But nevertheless, 50% of that party expressed support for the most extreme part of the party that was disbanded because of the threat that it had been said to pose to Germany. So even within this party, support for the more extremist fringe is still, as you point out, quite substantial.
Brian, really interesting analysis, and really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you so much. Brian Levin from California State University.
Now, so what's going to queue up now? Is a piece I threw in here to provide a little bit of historic, like I said, historic context. Okay, fam. But I wanted to say really quickly before we get into it, in reference to one of the last things that they said in that TRT video, where he asked, "Is this going to sort of embolden them?" That's not the exact words they used, but he said, "Yeah, it's probably going to do that in some ways because they can play the martyrs. They can when they're being attacked by a state, and let's remember." Germany is very different than the circumstances of if America was targeting things and stuff. I know it's a little bit of a side note, but it's important to keep in mind that the governmental structures are different. So the targeting is different. And I'm not an expert on the governmental structures in Germany, but normally as a general rule, I'm not someone who gets behind state targeting of individuals or groups or whatever. Okay. But this is clearly something different, and these people are espousing some very, very far-right, racist and Nazi and misanthropic notions and anti-immigrant notions and stuff. But when you get targeted by the state, and when a spotlight is put on groups like this, they will always play the victim to some level of success and win people over to them by going, "Oh, look, we're the unfair targets. We're the victims," and And that'll work for some people for a short time. But that doesn't mean we don't do it anyway, that we should not shine that spotlight on their gross racism and bigotry and their thinly veiled dog whistles for those same types of disgusting things, right? Just because it may in the short term embolden them in some ways doesn't mean that we should in any way ever refrain from shining a light on the grossest, most foulest of far-right fucking disgusting pieces of shit in the planet. And if you don't think that, if you think I'm kind of making my shit up about this party and their past, this is from DW News. This is from 3 years ago, fam. Okay? Nonagenarian Holocaust survivor Horst Selbiger recalls his childhood in Nazi Germany. He sees the rise of the AfD as a continuation of the Nazi tradition.
Der Faschismus hat ja in Deutschland nie aufgehört.
Fascism in Germany never went away. It just took on a new form.
Hold on a sec, fam. It's doing weird. It's giving it, well, I guess the only closed captionings it has is German. Here we go. Yeah. Auto-generated. Auto-translate. English. Back it up. Hopefully this works for us, fam. Here we go.
Der Faschismus hat ja in Deutschland nie aufgehört.
Fascism in Germany never went away. It just took on a new form.
Neue Form.
AfD 13.
We will hound this government. We will hunt down Chancellor Merkel or whomever else we need to. We will take back our country and our people.
What does he want then? The borders from 1939 again?
Yeah.
Horst Zellweger clearly remembers the beginning of Nazi rule in Germany. At school in Berlin, he was verbally abused and beaten up by his classmates.
Das fing an damit, dass ich also...
It started with them calling me horrible names like Smart Aleck Jew or Jewish Pig. It got worse and worse, more offensive, and then deadly.
Ja, immer tödlicher.
61 members of Zellweger's extended family were murdered in the Holocaust. Fascism and Germany's coming to terms with its Nazi past are core issues in his life. And after seeing so much in his 90 years, he's horrified by Sunday's German election result. He's been sharing his reactions online.
Ehrlich gesagt, ich verstehe nicht das Erstaunen.
To be honest, I don't understand the astonishment and anger that the AfD has made it into Parliament. Nazis have been in Parliament since 1949. They had Nazi ministers. One was even Chancellor.
Einer war sogar Bundeskanzler.
Kurt Georg Kiesinger was chancellor from 1966 to 69. Former Nazi Party members held seats in the West German parliament until the 1980s, across most of the political spectrum. Horst Zellweger sees the rise of the AfD as a continuation of this tradition.
Ich hoffe nur, dass wirklich jetzt ein Umdenken stattfindet. Und diese
I just hope that a real change of thinking happens here. And that this long-standing refusal to take the far right seriously will finally be confronted.
Und man diese widerlichen Rechten endlich.
We have to expose this ugly extremism, and I hope this confrontation will play out in the new German parliament.
Stattfinden. Und nicht, dass die AfD
I don't want to see the AfD take over. On the contrary.
Im Gegenteil.
Okay, and I've got a second video queuing up, fam, that is for a little bit of historic context about the NFD. Let's see what the description is on here. Hey, come on, scroll up. There we go. Real quick. So this is also from TRT World. A video is called German AfD official suggests refugees could be gassed. This is from 2020, from September 30th of 2020. A prominent official from Germany's AfD party suggested that migrants could be killed by being, quote, gassed or shot. He's under fire after saying refugees could be killed by being, quote, gassed or shot. We can still shoot the migrants afterwards. That's not an issue at all. Or gas, or whatever you want, this piece of shit said. Christian Luth was suspended from his post in April 2014 for reportedly describing himself as a fascist and was fired on Monday for his recent comments. that were secretly filmed in a documentary on Germany's far right. Luth was the former spokesperson for the AfD, and the party executive had long known that Luth performed the Nazi salute.
What he said is that he's not some politician who's working on a very low level in some parts of Germany. He's on a federal level, and he's the right hand of Mr. Gauland. So he's very close to the top of the AfD.
The AfD has campaigned against immigration and recently come under scrutiny from the German intelligence agency, which labeled a radical AfD wing as an extremist entity, which it was. And that extremist entity, I can't remember the exact title of it.
For just $67, you can make as many.
But they kicked that faction of the party out of the that wing of their party out of the party, basically. But polls have been done that all the stuff that far right faction that they discredited believed in and stood for, the rest of the party's still all in for, right? They just weren't members of that specific faction. So, and that specific faction was attached to some really stuff that created problems for the AfD, so they tried to disassociate themselves with it, which is another example of traditional extremist fascist behavior, which is they'll throw any and all of their comrades under the bus to keep their fascist project fucking rolling along. But make no mistake, it's always that same project that they're working on, despite how they might package it and despite who they might fucking point to and agree with you and go, oh yeah, they're awful. We don't want anything to do with that person that did this horrible, awful thing based on all the exact same shit that we believe. Right? Anyway. But this is from France 24 English. I thought this was a good kind of way to wrap up the issue on what's going on with AfD. So this is this March 4th, 2021, this came out. German far-right AfD party, first party put under surveillance since the Nazi era. Germany's BFV, Domestic Intelligence Service, has formally placed the far-right Alternative for Germany under surveillance on suspicion of trying to undermine Germany's democratic constitution. A person briefed on the move said on Wednesday. France 24's Nick Spicer tells us more. And they don't have subtitles, and they do have some issues here with their audio and video connections a little bit. Bear with it. They get it taken care of pretty quick, so I'm just going to let it roll.
Nick, tell us a bit more then about who in the AfD intelligence services are trying to monitor here.
Well, as we just heard of the report, they're able to tap the phones of party members, but it's only going to be rank and file. It won't be sitting parliamentarians in the Bundestag or in the 16 regional parliaments in which the AfD is represented. The Office for the Protection of the Constitution, as it is called, will also be able to look into party financing to see if there is anything wrong there. And just to give you an idea of what really sets off the alarm bells here, cast your mind back to November. You may remember people tried to storm the Reichstag here, and on that very day, there were members of the
This is what I'm talking about. They get this squared away pretty quickly.
My apologies there.
Measures taken by the federal government, and these guests of the AfD were heckling other members of parliament, causing some of them to say this is an assault on democracy. And months later, when the Capitol was stormed in Washington D.C., people were making the comparison: how did the AfD allow this to happen? The leader at the time, Alexander Gauland, apologized, said this shouldn't have happened. However, he's also famous for having said the 13 years of the Nazi era in Germany are, forgive me, just a speck of bird poo in German history. So that is really what has caused the concern of the Office for the Protection of the Constitution, whose job it is to guarantee democracy and prevent anything like that wartime era dictatorship from coming into reality again.
Nick, I'm pleased you're still with us. It looked like for a moment that we lost you there. Apologies to our viewers for some of our connection problems we were experiencing. But as you are still with us, as you said, this is the first time since the Nazi era that an intelligence inquiry like this has been opened in Germany. How is the AfD and how are German people more broadly reacting to this news?
Well, the reaction from there's no surprise coming from the party officials. Alexander Gallon, the man I was just talking about earlier, said this is the first step to dissolving the party. Another co-chair said that this was outrageous and that what the Office to Protect the Constitution had leaked the report. That's because it's actually being sued by the Alternative for Germany so that it doesn't actually publicize its work. So the office is in a bit of a catch-22. The story is out now and we know that it's going on. So outrage from the party faithful. If you talk, for instance, to the head of the Jewish Council in France, in Germany, he says this is a timely thing, this is a good thing, this is a right thing. The party represents an attack on democracy. We need this to actually happen. The story we were just listening to earlier talked about a drop in opinion polls, and it needs to be said the party, and I remember its founding, I was there at it in 2013, first an anti-Euro party during the sovereign debt crisis, then an anti-immigrant crisis party. From 2015 to 2016, and now it's sort of an anti-vaccination, anti-coronavirus. So it's a party of political opportunity, a protest party.
And you see what I was saying? That's what I was saying, that they're following those same rhetorical and narrative trends that we see coming out of the far right here in America and in other countries. It's all the same fucking movement.
Will react to it. Voters in the September election and the 6 upcoming regional elections really depends on how they feel about voting for a party that is considered a threat to democracy by the official body, whose job it is to determine this. And the speculation is some civil servants might feel fearful for their careers if they're known to be voting for them. And it's just regular voters might feel, well, this is a step too far. I might like to send a message and be a protest voter, but I can't do this anymore. Some political analysts, however, are saying that people who really do want to send a message might see this being a pariah party, an even bigger motivation to cast their ballots for the Alternative for Germany. So we'll just have to wait till September and those regional elections to know how people actually react.
Nick Spicer in Berlin, thank you very much indeed.
So, yeah, like I said, fam, I think it's anytime you can shed light or create conditions that at the very least call into question the validity of any type of far-right group like that, I'm good with it. Yes, they'll make it play in their favor momentarily and shit, but I just think overall that's officially out there, that there's reason to question these fucking people, and maybe that'll cause other people to look into some of their past and, whatever, if they're not aware. I'm sure people in Germany have to be aware of a lot of this stuff, this sort of background context stuff that I provided, because one, it's a smaller country, and generally countries in Europe are a little more, the populations of countries in Europe the populace tends to be a little more connected to what's going on in their parliaments and stuff than we are here in the U.S. Significantly so. But what that tells you, the same thing that we find alarming here in America, is that there's frighteningly a lot of people that are interested in this type of disgusting, bigoted, xenophobic, racist, anti-immigrant, death cult type of rhetoric. Kind of frightening, fam. I mean, for real. So what I have queued up now, though, is Art of John Magne Lissandra. The video is called Surreal Painting with Futuristic Concept. It's an acrylic landscape painting time-lapse. And the music I have queued up I got you. just can't be happy today. Today.
I just can't be happy today. What does you know? There's no smile, there's no feeling fine without being fine. There's a price on your head. Nobody's side when justice is red. I just can't be happy today. I just can't be happy today.
Closing the schools, they're burning the books, the church is in ruins, the priests hang on hooks, the radio's on ice, the telly's been banned, the army's in power, the devil commands!
Love is like oxygen. Love is like oxygen.
There's a rumor going round the town that you don't want me around. I can't shake off my city blues. Everywhere I turn I lose. Love is like oxygen. You can't tell love is like oxygen. Not enough and we're gonna die. Love gets you high. Love is like oxygen. You can't tell love is like oxygen. are better left unsaid. I'm gonna spend my days in bed. I'll walk the streets at night to be hidden by the city
Go, fam. That's the art of John Magne Lysandra. Queued up over here, fam. Kind of the last thing I have. Well, it is the last thing I have queued up for today's What the Fuck. It's from the channel World War II, and all the stuff they put out is really great. I really do enjoy it. But what really stood out to me when I watched this the other day was that, we talk a lot about the relevance of A Handmaid's Tale in terms of if, the far-right Christo-fascist people got exactly what they wanted. And it is a really good example, I think. But there's also a nonfiction historical context for what the role of women will be in a deeply full-on patriarchal imperialist, under a full-on patriarchal imperialist regime. And I think the greatest historic example of that is the geisha. So the title is Geishas, World War II Prostitutes or Entertainers. World War II on the Home Front, Episode 7. The geisha class has long been a feature of Japanese society. In the 1920s, they were caught between the struggle for women's liberation and the rising sexual demand of powerful men. This crossfire only becomes more intense as war sweeps the Pacific. You know, and I will say last thing before we get into it is that even amidst being totally given over to the geisha culture, there is all kinds of that human spirit that comes to the fore from geishas who are doing at their best with what's at their disposal to, eke out forms of emancipation, right? And I just think that mixed up in this 11-minute video is a real tale of oppression and a cautionary tale about patriarchy and misogyny and imperialism, but it also has within it some really fantastic examples of heroism and the best of the human spirit coming to the fore. Okay, so that's my words on that, I suppose. And I don't know that I'm going to comment much through it other than that. But here it is, Geishas World War II prostitutes or entertainers from the channel World War II.
She is the embodiment of the perfect Japanese woman, a feminine, restrained posture, flawless manners, and dedication to serving their male customers well. But under the white porcelain makeup of the geisha lies a woman in the crossfire of the struggles against patriarchy. This is On the Homefront, a sub-series of World War II in real time. I'm Anna Deinhardt. Initially, the geisha are well-trained artists in dancing and singing to entertain at parties of well-off men. They emerged from the 1629 ban on female public performance when women were driven to private performances venues, often situated in pleasure quarters. Soon, they became keepers of Japanese tradition, known for their charm and manners. To be trained as a geisha meant social prestige and education some families usually couldn't afford. In their cultural and artistic training, learning how to perform tea ceremonies is central, something they train at the Urasenki School of Tea.
You know when you eat tough...
2, 1, 0, skip.
Fulfilling many Japanese ideals of feminine beauty added to her popularity and made her a public figure. When magazines become a thing in the 19th century, many publications deal with the geisha world, its members, and their newest fashion. But after the First World War, a fresh Western breeze sweeps through the Japanese society for a short while, which affects all women's lives, including the geisha. In Tokyo, a short-lived trend occurs. The geisha lose their traditional kimonos and starts dressing in a Western fashion. But the Cooperative Association of the Geisha has just become a national organization. They find this new trend incompatible with the geisha image, and its guidelines quickly bring the geishas back down to earth. To be a geisha, it now becomes obligatory to wear traditional Japanese clothing and dedicate themselves to the traditional arts. This causes many women to give back their license and try their success as barmaids or jazz singers. The new Japanese woman is a product of the struggle against a repressive state, but does not have a real impact on women's position in Japanese society. The Taisho era of the 20s gives men universal voting rights, but women's vote does not follow. The rising self-awareness of women is seen as a threat to male sexual entitlement. Japanese tradition not only gives men the right to intercourse with one's wife, prostitution is an equally important right. The marriage bed is only meant to produce heirs, while fun is reserved for brothels and comparable venues. With a long tradition in Japan, brothels are legalized in federal legislation in 1900. But they are a thorn in the sides of the women's movement, which pursues restrictions on arranged marriages, alcohol, concubine possessions, and prostitution. Their struggle for autonomy forms the image of a new Japanese woman who is freedom-loving and self-determined in her sexuality. Nevertheless, in the Taisho years, the prostitution sector expands even more as the male demand for paid sex escalates further. Now, there's a wide variety of venues to buy sex, like the Ginza-type cafes, where the waitresses sell kisses and intermingle with the customer in a sexual way for money. Here, the self-determined working woman becomes a sexual object even more desirable for men to possess. Now, a first-class geisha is not a regular prostitute because she won't just sleep with anyone who pays. That said, part of a geisha's training is the deflowering, which men pay high sums for. Sayo Mizuda describes how her first time is sold to 4 different men, one after the other. The mother would teach me all the virgin-like gestures I was to make. I just kept quiet and bent to her will.
Oh, this is one of those video will play after ads. It's almost there, fam. Couple more seconds. And we're back. Right? Oh, yeah, there we go.
But once a girl has made her debut, the geisha house mother and the geisha registry office fixes her up with a patron, a dana. But many venues now shift their focus to the customer's sexual needs. The geishas and spas and recreation spots are especially famous for only having minor artistic skills and mostly selling sex. In 1927, the poet Hagiwara Sakutaru writes about increasing prostitution at geishas venues. If I hear someone say he's going off to see a geisha, that can only mean one thing nowadays. Geishas are not companions of the mind. They are companions of the body. It's too bad if geishas are called high-class prostitutes, but that, in fact, is what they have become. New geisha trainees are now partly recruited through illegal brokers. They lure girls, mostly from the countryside, into the venues by disguising as rickshaw drivers or by promising them factory work. They are then manipulated into taking on a debt to buy kimonos or send money back to their parents. A debt that now ties the woman to the venue and obliges them to work off the sum. In 1927, 80,086 women are prostituted in geisha venues, 12% of which are between 14 and 17. To get to these underage girls, the brokers and geisha venues use adoption contracts. They pay the girls' parents money and promise years of artistic and cultural training for their daughters. In 1929, the global depression hits Japan, and in 1934, a mass crop failure strikes Japan's northern prefectures. Poverty among countryside families increases enormously. This makes women and girls even more vulnerable to traffickers and brokers, who offer loans in exchange for enslaving daughters and female relatives. The Great Depression also puts a damper on social progress, even though the female suffrage movement struggles on for a short while. The fight for the vote peaks in 1931 when the government sponsors a bill to give women full suffrage. It passes the lower house of parliament but is defeated in the House of Peers. The country is now caught in a spiral of increasing radical political tendencies. Military powers gain more and more influence and shape the Japanese emperor's decision through advisors. The annexation of Manchuria in 1931 and the invasion of China in 1937 means that the country is at war. Married women are now expected to do their part by providing for the old, young, and ill, and to keep the house while the men are away at war. The geisha also struggle for social survival. The publicity is shrunk to a minimum, and they are rarely invited as acts at official state events. The war effort soon demands that more and more unmarried women go to the factories. Opportunities for vocational training for women increase, and soon parents only rarely give their daughters away to become traditional geisha, causing many venues to close in the 30s. When the Pacific War starts with Japan attacking Pearl Harbor, women in general are called to action. Irie Hisae, who lost her husband on the China front, describes in her diary what is expected of her. Weeping was unforgivable for the wives of Japan. The only time I could cry without reproach was when I was in bed with my child. As the war drags on, younger and younger girls are drafted into the labor force for military-industrial production. Even schoolgirls younger than 13 years old will find death in the most dangerous forms of war labor. Geisha are not spared from joining the labor force. As with most men away at the front, many venues have to shut down. But some geisha manage to cater to the remaining, richer customers right until the last years of the war. Even though tea houses, geisha houses, and bars are ordered to close, up to 9,000 geisha will still entertain in 1944. The author Tokuda Shusei describes the reasons for this in his 1941 novel, A World in Miniature. With the reassertion of truly Japanese tastes, the geisha venues had regained their former prosperity, benefiting greatly from a booming war economy, and from the busy socializing of the upper classes, who favored establishments with their banquets and parties. Many women from geisha venues are also trafficked into the Japanese comfort stations for soldiers on the front. Often they are persuaded by the promise of being relieved from their debt after 1 year of service. Most of them have been prostituted since childhood. The years of sexual abuse have already severely harmed the women who fill the comfort stations during the war. It doesn't get better there. Doctors who examine them list the many injuries: broken bones, bruises, reproductive complications, hepatitis, syphilis, psychological hardships including depression, stress disorders, suicidal thoughts, and self-mutilation. The women's movement in 1920s Japan suffers a strong headwind that is reflected on the high increase of the prostitution sector. In a declining economy, the geisha, once aspiring female artists, the embodiment of the Japanese image of a perfect woman, slide even further into prostitution and dependency. When war comes, the geisha who don't end up in the factories are often compelled to prostitute themselves to the frontline soldiers. The struggle against patriarchy that for a while even raged behind the perfect facade of the geisha is, like so many other human values, lost to the war. To understand more about how crazy complicated the Japanese government was, click right here. The Time Goes Army is what keeps our efforts running. Sign up on Patreon or timegoes.tv. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell.
There you go, fam. Time Goes History or World War II channel. And that's all I got for today, fam. I really appreciate y'all hanging. I want to say, like I always say, oh, it's going to play a second ad here, is it? Well, much thanks, love, and appreciation to literally everyone in the P4P fam. And much thanks and appreciation to you for hanging out and watching. And of course, much love, thanks, and appreciation to literally anyone and everyone that does what they can when they can to get up and out in an effort to make life better for other people. It makes a difference, and it fucking matters. Anyway, we'll see you next time on the What the Fuck Report, fam.
Hi, neighbor. Welcome again to this neighborhood. I'd like to show you something. You know what this is? Well, maybe if I press this button. This is a cassette player with a little cassette in here, and there's nothing written on it, so we'll just have to play it to see what it is. Do you ever imagine things? Are they scary things? Are they scary things? Do you ever imagine things? Things you'd like to have? Did you ever see a cat's eyes in the dark? and wonder what they were. Did you ever pretend about things like that? Did you ever pretend about things like that? Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think, and they'll grow. Imagine every person that you see is somewhat different from every other person in the world. Some can do some things, some can do others. Did you ever think of the many things you've learned to do? Many things you've Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think, and they'll grow. Did you feel like going like that? Let's give the fish some food. Mr. McFeely, I didn't order any whistles. That's what they call a slide whistle. Did you feel like going like that? There are so many things to learn about in this world, and so many people who can help us learn. Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think, and they'll grow.
All right, fam. Thanks so much for hanging. I really, really do appreciate y'all. Big time. It's a what the fuck report, you know? It ends on positive, happy, feelsy, goodsy notes like much love, thanks, and appreciation. You know what I'm saying? All right. We'll see you next time on the What the Fuck Report. Cheers, fam.